Is it true that you don't mess with a master of quack fu?
You really don't. You really don't.
A lot of people don't know Howard spent a lot of time getting that black belt in quack fu.
Well, he spent about half an issue. That's all it takes in comic book time. It takes about like 8 pages, and you're a master of pretty much anything.
Yeah, montage.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people, we're kind of getting down the rabbit hole there a little bit, but a lot of people maybe aren't familiar with the overall picture of Howard the Duck and, the universe in which he lived. Can you sort of paint the picture for us? Like, just explain this character and what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit self-explanatory. It's a duck that talks.
It's just as deep as that.
Yeah. He was created, in like 1973, I believe, and the character's kind of like an everyman, but he's a duck.
An every duck.
Yeah, an every duck. The common duck. And in the comic books, he works really well as a contrast to the human world, but also the human world he's in happens to involve like Spider-Man and Thor and Doctor Strange. So
you're talking about the new one?
Well, the old one too. The old one took place in the Marvel universe,
right?
So you have this weird contrast. If you have a duck amongst humans, but the humans are, for the most part, actually quite weird. So he was actually more of an everyman than most of the superheroes. Like, he was the one kind of like making fun of superheroes.
It sounds like very existentialist.
Oh, it's so existential. There was an issue, I think it was issue 16, where the writer of the comic didn't get the script done in time. So he just wrote like 16 to 20 pages of like existential screeds about what it's like to be a writer.
Really?
And, like, it was a trippy comic. And it was like a weird hit. Like, it wasn't even like a cult hit. It was like a hit at Marvel, and they tried to milk it for as much as they could, and that's what killed it.
So when you miss your deadline, just go meta.
Yeah, yeah. I hope my editor's not listening. I'll never miss a deadline. What are you talking about? That's crazy.
Did this comic have a big significance to you when you were coming up?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the movie. I think I was grade 6 when the movie came out, and if a movie features a talking duck, I'm going to enjoy it. Yeah. I don't care what the critics say, frankly. But the comics themselves, I had a weird Uncle Fred. I think most guys.
So do I.
Oh yeah. I think everyone has a weird Uncle Fred who kind of collected like underground comics, like Robert Crumb and Fritz the Cat, and like Howard the Duck was one of the books he collected. So whenever I go to Uncle Fred's house, I'd like sneak to the basement and read these weird books about this talking duck, and it seemed kind of adult, even though it wasn't adult in content.
But like a little bit. It's, language maybe. And
the language in the actual comics, the language wasn't too over the top, but like it was just the social issues and stuff. Like, it was like weird commentary on things that also I didn't understand, because it's talking about like Carter and Ford, and like I'm like, oh God, I don't know. I understand these guys are probably important people. But yeah, so I would read those, and like secretly in the basement. And a few years ago, my uncle bequeathed some of them to me, without knowing that I was going to be the writer on Howard the Duck.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was that meaningful for you when you got those, or was it just
no, it was great. Like, it was a kind of a blast from the past. I'd almost forgotten about them, and then he gave them to me because I was researching something else. And he's like, "Oh, take these too," and I'm like, flipping through them, I'm like, oh man, these were really subversive. Like, you don't know it as a kid reading them, but but they were over the top and amazing and beautiful art. And yeah, it was a whole thing in the 70s. Howard the Duck, like, he ran for president in the comics. He was part of the All Night Party, which is still one of the best names. And
it's up there with Marijuana Party, right?
Yeah. In 76, he got like thousands of write-in votes. Like, he was actually,
And then, ironically, what brings him back today is like a grassroots sort of campaign, right? Like, there was a lot of fans writing into Marvel and saying, bring him back. Were you surprised to hear about that process, that there was still like this groundswell of support years and years later?
No, I mean, there's always been fans of the book. The original creator passed away a few years ago, which it's kind of a double-edged thing, because like his voice is so synonymous with Howard the Duck, that he was the only one that could really write him. Now that he's no longer around, I think there's probably a bit more freedom to just kind of utilize the character in other ways, without him being angry at me, which is nice. And so, yeah, it wasn't as much kind of writing campaigns as it was like, people have an affinity for the character, but they snuck him into the end of Guardians of the Galaxy. Spoilers, if you haven't seen it. I'm very sorry. A nation who's behind.
Thanks, I was going to watch it tonight.
Oh, geez.
No, yeah.
Yeah, and they put him in at the end of the movie, and that's what kind of got Marvel, the comics division, sparking their idea to do something with them. Like, oh yeah, maybe people want this.
Yeah. But you mentioned how this is such a different comic and it's subversive in many ways. Same time, it's a talking duck, no superpowers, kind of sad a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's lonely.
Is that what drew you in?
The sadness and the loneliness.
Yeah.
That's reflective of my own life. Yeah, I mean, he's such a great springboard for any kind of story you want to do. There's not a lot of constraints to it. But he's also the most human of the characters, like, even though he's a duck.
Well, there's one constraint that you're forced to deal with now, right? Which is you have to put pants on him.
I do have to put pants on him.
Can you talk about why?
Yeah, no, like as soon as I signed up for the gig, I got all the legal documents from Marvel. I guess at some point when Howard the Duck kind of took off, there was a bit of a conflict with a certain Donald Duck at Disney, and Disney basically
all rights reserved.
Yeah, sued Marvel and basically outlined what they need to do to make him not look like Donald Duck, which is the thing because he's a parody of Donald Duck clearly, but yeah, now he has to wear pants.
Yeah,
Donald owns the trademark.
They're the only one who do animals with no pants.
Exactly.
That's
Except
theirs
in the privacy of your own home, if you want your animal to not have pants, that's
or in the
fine.
wild.
Yeah, or in the wild.
Everywhere on Earth.
Yeah,
literally.
Exactly. But yeah, and he can't wear blue. It's weird things like that. His eyes have to be slightly smaller. So yeah, I don't want to run afoul of Disney, even though they own Marvel now. So that's really weird. Yeah, I don't understand corporations.
Well, lawyers got to make a living, right?
Maybe I'll satirize it in the new Howard the Duck comic. We'll see.
Could be some rape content to skewer.
Yeah, exactly.
The movie, though, we heard the clip at the beginning. It's so ridiculous, and maybe it's not a surprise that it was a flop when it came out. But I understand that you liked it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, once again, I'm a kid watching the movie, so it's a talking duck. But I had like a childhood friend who was big into ducks. Like that was his thing. He had pet ducks, and we would hang out, watch the movie over and over again.
Greatest day of his life. When
it's the greatest day of his life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's probably like a furry now. I don't know, but I remember like setting up our tape recorder in front of the TV to record the final song. Like Leah Thompson and her band play the song.
She's the love interest.
She's the love interest,
right?
yeah, and a nation's love interest at that time. Like,
do you find that a bit weird though?
Which part?
Like
the fact that I'm in love with Leah Thompson?
Not you.
Or a duck with a human woman?
A human woman, that part, yeah.
Yeah, that part, in the comics, originally...
As a kid, though, you're like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Sure. It was kind of hinted at in the comics. It wasn't, like, as overt. Once you actually see it in flesh... It's
in flesh and feather.
In flesh and feather, then it becomes a little weird, yeah. Yeah,
Are you going to go down that route?
You know what? I'm going to skip around it. I'm going to skip around it.
Interspecies romance?
There's a lot of people that want her back. Beverly is the character's name, and I'm kind of like, I'm delaying that a little bit to give Howard some breathing room, because human-duck interaction, I don't know. There's things about a duck's anatomy that I shouldn't say on the radio, but it's not pretty. It's
really?
I'll let you Google. I'll let everyone at home Google duck penis. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, literally grew up in the bush hunting ducks. Still have no idea.
Yeah, well. Comes a time in every man's life when he has to find out what a duck penis looks like, I find.
Well, and that time apparently comes on national radio for old Wab Kinew. You mentioned some of the rules that Marvel lays out for you. One of the other ones that you alluded to is the fact that it has to exist in this Marvel universe, right?
Yeah.
So Spider-Man's like swinging through the background,
Yeah.
The Incredible Hulk. Is that daunting for you as a creator that you have to position yourself in that world?
Oh, it's insanely exciting because, as a kid... I've always wanted to write Spider-Man. So in the first issue of the comic, I just threw Spider-Man in. Like, they're going to fire me after 4 issues. I know that. Like, I'm going to blow this. I blow everything in my life. So I'm just trying to get as much of these characters in as possible until they stop me. But like Spider-Man, like that's a process. Like there's a spider office at Marvel. So as soon as I put Spider-Man in, they have to be notified.
It gets vetted by them.
Because it's a continuity. Like all these things happen. Like for the last 2 years.
Oh, they're like, no, he can't do it because in issue, 123, he had a duck allergy.
Yeah, like I wanted to like put in a Spider-Man character in a key role, but it turns out his Uncle Ben has been dead forever. I had no idea, so I can't put him in. I just can't use it.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that. And with Spider-Man, it was like, Yeah, they just you just get these weird notes back, and then I try to put Doctor Strange in Master of the Mystic Arts, and I get this editorial note that says, "Well, he's on the other side of the known universe fighting the white demons. We'll see if we can free him up." And I'm like, working at the National Post, I never got notes like that.
Yeah.
You know,
You're like, hello, wormhole. Come on.
These are weird emails to get.
Yeah. But they take it so seriously.
Yeah, they have to because the fans do.
Right.
Yeah.
No humor in the
There's humor. Like, I'm definitely getting away with stuff. Like,
yeah.
none of my jokes have been cut yet, which is kind of
No,
surprising.
I mean
to me.
in terms of the interactions with the Marvel.
Yeah, but even
offices.
tone of character, like, they have to protect the integrity of the character. So I can't have Spider-Man, obviously,
He can't be going to the bar with Howard the Duck.
Yeah, I can't have Spider-Man Googling duck penises or something. Like, Marvel's going to, keep an eye on that ship.
You joke about, doing 4 issues and getting fired.
Yeah.
But on the realistic level, though, do you hope that maybe in the future you get to write for Spider-Man or one of these other Marvel properties?
No, it's one of those things. I think it's like an itch that you want to scratch, right? Like, comic books, especially kind of corporate comics like this, has a history of like creators creating characters and not getting credit or not getting payment for it. And, Howard the Duck has issues with that too. Like, the creator went to court with Marvel over the character back in the day. There isn't a single comic character that isn't kind of mired in that kind of legal dispute and creators being treated poorly. So the idea is, like, the book I work on, the Sex Criminals book, does well enough that I'm not too concerned about kind of what happens at Marvel. So I'm doing it for fun. Like, it's kind of like the childhood dream, and like, once they fire me, I'll be like, okay, pack up my bindle, off I go, do another comic somewhere else.
It's not a bad place to be as a creative person.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Like, writing Spider-Man dialogue is definitely a dream come true.
So this is a comic book for adults. Why do you think it's important that comics cater to that audience?
Well, this is more aimed kind of teen and up, I'd say.
Okay.
I think it's the kind of thing where adults might get another degree out of it, of enjoyment.
So it's inclusive, right?
Yeah. I want to make it inclusive. Like, it's still, there's no swearing or nudity or anything. I think there is a rating system, and I think it'd probably be rated teen plus.
Mm-hmm. But you are putting stuff in there strictly for an adult market. So why cater to them?
That's a great question. I mean, comics like this should probably be catered a bit more youthful, but unfortunately, the way the industry's kind of grown, a bulk of the readers, especially of the kind of Marvel comic and DC comic books, are adult males, 40 and up. So Marvel kind of has to cater a little bit to them, make the stories a bit more adult in nature. I'd actually argue that the Howard the Duck comic that I'm working on is probably less adult than most of the superhero stuff they're putting out. Like, I'm not going to have like
the darkness.
I'm not going to have like horrible murders and things like that take place. Like, I'm trying to keep it as light as possible. Like, I think you can still tackle kind of social issues and do it without alienating kind of younger readers. I kind of like the idea of sucking in younger readers with, superheroes and Howard the Duck, and then like kind of slyly sneaking messages in here and there. Yeah, it's quite the trip.
All right. Well, it's great to speak to you this morning.
Yeah, great to speak to you too. Thanks.